Cool. So let's get started. Thank you again, Angela, for coming tonight to this quick and useful event. And I brought Karen, my partner and wife, and we're really excited to, meet you in, ask your, more questions, pick your brain, and we're really excited because we've seen a lot of your videos, and we now get to see you live. And I haven't seen many interviews to you. I think we're privileged to have you tonight. Uh, so let's get started. We want to kind of get started with about your story. We want to know how you got started in cleaning and how you really, started all this, I guess, this empire years ago. So why don't you tell us more about you and your background and how you got started?
Well, thank you. I am so excited to be here tonight, and I really appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity. To get started in the cleaning business, I'd moved away from home at 17. I was a nanny for a couple of years. And as I moved out into the real world, I decided to go get some jobs, but I had no idea how expensive it was to live on your own. And so I was waiting tables, and I was delivering newspapers and delivering pizzas, and I worked at a tanning salon. So I had 4 part-time jobs. And one day as a wait staff, one of the waiters said, "Hey, I've started a house cleaning business on the side. Would you like to come help me?" So I did. I went and I helped her for exactly one day. And during that day, I saw a bunch of things about cleaning that I was like, wait a second, I don't think this is how you're supposed to clean. And she would lift up the rug and she would sweep the dust under the rug. And then, okay, everything looks good. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that's not how it's done. And I left at the end of the day because I was like, we're going to get fired. Like, that's not how you clean. But I didn't know what that meant. I didn't really know how you were supposed to clean as far as a professional goes. But I knew that I couldn't work for her based on her antics. I started my own cleaning business the next day. So we talk about you hire somebody and they go start a new business. Yeah. So the next day I started my own, and I had no idea what it meant to be in business. And so I decided, for me, right up front, this is a business. And you got to be very clear about, is this a business or a hobby? Because hobbies cost you money, and they're fun, but businesses are intended to make you money. And right then I needed a lot of money because I was trying to, pay an apartment and pay for my car and car insurance and health insurance and all that stuff. Yeah. So in order to do that, I decided to go to a community college and take some business classes. And I was going to learn how to create a business plan and how to hire people and fire people and all that stuff. It was an ongoing process. It's not something like you start a business and then like, poof, you're successful, right? Oh, yeah. There's a little bit of a process involved. And so it took me about 3.5 months to kind of feel like I got my groove. One of the things that I know right away is, if I have to do something more than once, then I feel like I should template it and turn it into a system or a process that will then do itself over and over and over again. And so I started creating some systems very quickly early in my business. And my business became very successful very quickly. And within a couple of months, I'd hired a couple of people and my business was already starting to expand. In the process, there were other people that were in other cleaning businesses that were like looking over my shoulder, like, what are you doing? How are you growing so fast? Yeah. And we outsourced all of our schedule. We filled up our schedule within a couple of months and then filled up 2 more people's schedules. And then we started hiring more people. At that time, I realized my training is not what it needs to be. And as I started putting together training programs, the other companies that were watching us said, can you come train our cleaning people as well? Wow. And I started training house cleaning companies that were not my own, but the rule was they had to live 500 miles away because I didn't want them to steal my business, right? Yeah. And so they would pay for my airline ticket and I would fly into another city and I would train their people the processes that we were using in my own company. And as we would figure them out in my own company, I would template them and then I would go train their companies as well. And so during the time that I ran my business from about month 3 on, I've been training house cleaning companies while I was running a cleaning business for 25 years. Wow. And at the end of 25 years, that was the summer of 2015, we had a troubled teenager come to live with us. And it was one of the most heartbreaking situations that I'd ever seen in my entire life. She was destructive and suicidal and mean and just all kinds of things that you don't suspect. Anyway, it took 24/7 care for her. and I couldn't take her on a cleaning job. She assaulted one of my employees and she assaulted one of my clients.
Wow.
I knew that we were in some serious trouble. And so I couldn't take her to a customer's home because she stole things. And it was one thing after the next. So it was, she needed 24/7 care. And I had run a very successful training and cleaning company for 25 years. And so I said, well, is this the next phase of my life? And I didn't want to say, well, I'm like middle aged now. Should I retire someday? Or, what do you do? And I said, I think this is a turning point. I think that this is an opportunity for me to take what I've learned and to template it a different way and to move online. And there's this thing called the internet. And it was kind of like all around me and I'd been running from it. I was hoping it was going to go away and it did not go away. And so I said, I think I will figure out the next phase. But I knew that I had to stay home. It was literally 24/7 care and 12 hours of state mandatory therapy per week with her.
Oh.
And so we did all the therapy and we went to all the places we were supposed to go. But I started to figure out this little business online. And it wasn't until the spring of 2016 that I sold my house cleaning business. And I sold it for this reason. If you chase two rabbits, both will get away.
Wow.
And I had had a very successful run in my cleaning business. Do I keep trying to hang on to that and trying to manage that? Trying to manage the new lifestyle that I have with now a new teenager in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Do I do two things, or do I really focus on one thing and do it very well? And I think there's a time to expand and grow your business and have your many eggs in many baskets, as they say. But I think you have to be careful and strategic about those decisions. And so the decision was sell the business. You did it. You were there. You know the stuff. And now just focus on what's in front of you. And that was the online training. So since 2016, I've been training full time. And it was, again, around the world and online until the spring of 2020 when we had COVID, and it went 100% online. So I only have one client right now that I still go on site, and that's every weekend. It's an ongoing contract. But that contract is coming to a close. It will end in about 5 weeks. And so now I am all Zoom. So that was kind of my process. Yeah.
What a fascinating story and so inspiring. When we were discussing with Juan, like, I wonder how the sale of the business went through, and all of my reasons that came to mind were not even close to what you just shared. And I think it's such a heart-to-heart moment to share, because it's so important for us to prioritize and to be transparent and honest with ourselves with what's really important for us. And you were at the peak of your career, and now to take this direction, I think it's so inspiring. And now teaching everybody else online, it's really, I'm wowed by your story. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It was, I have no words to say, but just wow.
The next training program is going to be on parenting. And we're
Yeah,
going
how to handle teenagers.
Well, it's really interesting. And here's kind of something that's peculiar. I think parenting is a lot like running a business, because what's very interesting is the skills that you learn either as a business owner transfer over into being a parent, or if you're a parent first, they transfer over into being a business owner.
Yeah.
Managing employees is a lot like raising kids.
Yeah.
And the things that motivate kids also motivate employees. And so there are some basic psychological principles that if you understand those, then you can survive. And as I look around, I've seen parents that have survived, raising kids, and there are business owners that have survived raising employees. And I'm like, hey, we can make it, it's not the end of the world.
I'm curious, what's one of those lessons that you see that is very similar in parenting and running a business or managing employees?
So this is a lesson that is super helpful, and it's a lesson that transfers also over into raising clients. So it works with teenagers, it works with employees, and it works with clients. It's called the 5 I heard yous. And the 5 I heard yous are really great to use during a time of maybe somebody's giving you feedback and it's not what you want to hear. And it might be considered an argument or a defiance or constructive criticism or something like that. Instead of trying to say, well, that's not what I think, or that's not how I saw it. And instead of debating with them, instead of giving them fuel for their fire, if you can just stop and use the 5 I heard yous. The 5 I heard yous are neutral comments like, Oh, huh. How about that? That's fascinating. That's interesting. And it furthers the conversation. It lets them blow off steam. And what you're saying is, I heard you, but I'm not going to agree and I'm not going to disagree. And it's a very neutral place where you do not take a side. And so as you're sitting there, what you're saying with eye contact is, I'm listening to what you have to say. I'm taking it in, and I'm actually not going to comment. And so you don't make any comments. You just kind of grunt, huh?
Wow.
But what happens is this: as they blow off steam, they feel like they've been heard. And when they're done, because you haven't argued and you haven't put them in a situation where they feel like now they're more angry at you, or there's vengeance, or they have to get even with you. Now they feel like, because I was heard, they translate that into, I was respected.
Wow.
And that translates into, now we have an open line of communication where, when the dust settles and the heat is gone from the fire, as they say, you can come back and have an educated decision with a person on a different level that is more respectful and more meaningful.
That's fascinating. We could go on over this parenting and business management of personal, but why don't we keep asking the fascinating questions we have?
Yeah, we have. I want to get into kind of the marketing of of employees and finding great people. So as you know, competition for great blue collar workers is tougher than ever, and we hear complaining of how hard it is to find people, how expensive it is to find people, and I really want to get some good, solid grassroots guerrilla strategies that people can put into practice without breaking the bank. So let's hear it.
Wow, that is a loaded question.
It's like a 5-part question.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so the first thing about hiring employees is, we come to a situation in our business. We want to hire employees because our business is growing, and it's growing so fast that we feel overwhelmed, and we're a little bit stressed, and we're a little bit tense and a little bit anxious, and we are not at our best.
Yeah.
So that's typically where people hire other employees. Okay, now on the flip side of that, you get an employee who's looking for a job. No one goes looking for a job when things are smooth sailing and they're financially well and there's money in the bank and they're on top of the world and they're at their best.
Totally.
So what you have is an employee looking for a job and they are not at their best. You have an employer looking for help and they are not at their best. And then what happens is, the employer is like, I got to hire somebody to save my business. Okay, they're going to come and save me. And the person that's looking for the job is, I'm going to get a job and that person is going to save me. So you have two really weird situations of two people not at their best, and they're both looking for the other person to save them. Okay, so now that we've established that, and that's typically, in my experience, how that goes. There may be exceptions, but that's typically how that goes. So what happens is, we go out in desperation and we hire in desperation, and they promise things in desperation because no one is at their best.
Right.
So what I like to do is, I like to hire people when things are going well. So we're always hiring. Even if we don't need people, we're always hiring.
Yeah.
And so if I find somebody that's good, I like to say, oh, you would be a great fit for this. And I'm always asking people, even if they're not looking for a job, what are your skills? And I love to hire people that are not looking for a job, because everything is smooth sailing. And I can tell very quickly, is this a good adjustment for my business, or is this somebody that, I should pass over? And so if you're in a different state of mind when you hire, and that's my first suggestion, is
Okay.
you will hire differently than you will when you're
That's
desperate.
true. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that you forget about all of that, but let's say that now you're going to hire somebody. How do you go about, you asked, how do you hire people without breaking the bank? First and foremost, you have to be crystal clear about what it is you need. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people hire, oh, I need someone for my cleaning business. And then they add words in their descriptions of their ads that will say things like, I'm going to hire a sanitization specialist. I don't know what that is. And somebody takes the job thinking that they're going to earn $78,000 a year because sanitization specialist sounds pretty important.
Yeah.
They don't know it's like a $15 an hour job and they're going to be cleaning out toilets with a toilet brush, right? So we have to be very clear about what it is we're offering. And so I like to be really like, let's strip away all the pretense. And so people will say, I'm a cleaning technician. You can be a cleaning technician, but what does that pay for a year? Is that what, $58,000 a year?
Yeah.
Remove it and just say you're a house cleaner. And then a person who's looking for a house cleaning job will say, wait a second, I can clean houses. I could do that job. You will still attract talent, but it will be the kind of talent that you need.
True.
And then what happens is I like to really lay it out on the table. Here's what I'm looking for. And it's not that I want to make it sound super fun, like we have a really fun environment and this is how it is. I like to really break it down like a Spartan race. A Spartan race is you're going to be climbing ropes and you're going to be jumping over hurdles and obstacles and you're going to be swimming through mud and crossing streams. You'll probably get banged up and bruised up and it's not going to be fun and only the tough survive. Right there, a whole bunch of people will go, whoa, that's not for me. And they leave, right? But there will be people who go, wait a second, I love a challenge. I want the challenge. I can do this. And you're like, I don't know. I'm not so sure. This is not a job for everyone. And people go, it is for me. I know I can do this. I know I can. And so what you're going to do is you're going to paint a picture that's very realistic. This is not, we're not going to go around to someone's house and do a little bit of light dusting and wear a fun little dress with a really frilly apron. That's not what this is. You're going to be standing in 78-degree heat. You're going to be sweating profusely. Hair and sweat is going to get in your eyes. Now you're going to be wearing a face mask. People are going to come in after you and they're going to dirty up the space before you even get it clean. And there are people that are like, I totally can manage this. I got this. Now, if they're sure they got it, I would hire that person. That sounds like a person that is in it for the long haul, right? They kind of know what the real picture of it is. So I like to strip away all the fun stuff about this is our company culture, and don't try to explain your company culture to somebody that doesn't understand what company culture is. If somebody's been working alone and they haven't had a real job, maybe they've been working maybe they've been a house mom for several years or something. They will understand your company culture by how you treat people, by how you operate, by the ethics that you operate from, by the way that you treat your customers, and they will become a part of it. And when you attract somebody and you attract the right kind of person, it will be so strong, it will be like super glue. And then when you try to like send them on their way, they're like, no, I work here. This is what I do. And people will work for you because they want to work for you. Okay. But it's not because you made lofty promises. And it's not because you paid a lot of money. When you start out in the cleaning business, we don't pay a lot of money. And we come in with very, very strict regulations. People make fun of me every day in every Facebook group that's out there because I have very strict rules. People are like, Angela and her rules. But you know what? The weird part of it is we attract a mass amount of people to our programs because we do have strict rules. We do enforce them and people know where the line is. Yeah. It's all this in between where there's where's the line? Where's the, people push boundaries, but if there are no boundaries pushing back, nobody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So if you make your job explanations, your job interviews clear, if you make your ads clear, if you make your expectations with them clear, people will fall in line and they will be incredible employees, and it doesn't have to cost you a fortune.
Totally agree. Expectations are so important because people expect they're gonna make this amount of money and they're gonna have at 3 p.m. they're gonna be over in their house, and it's really it happens as well with customers. You always have to really say what you're gonna deliver, otherwise you're gonna get complaining and they want to get their money back. So expectations are super important. Thank you for that point. Let's move on to the next question about screening applicants. Obviously, you touched on that already a bit. What are some red flags? Things that when you're in the interview, when you see their resume, their application, what are some red flags that people can really learn and grasp and say, okay, boom, this person is not a good fit for my company. Let's move on to somebody else.
Well, that's a great question. My rules that are so strict helps inform me of the person that I'm hiring. Because I'm so strict and because I have rules, I know exactly right up front exactly what I'm looking for from a person. So when I create a job description, whether you put it on a any of the sites that are out there. I ask for a series of things. I call them my asks, and it might be text me this or email me this, or when you show up, I need your driver's license and be prepared to fill out an I-9 form. There might be things like that. If they show up without any of those things, they didn't listen very well. And if they can't take direction, they're not the right person for me. And so I have a couple of built-in things right up front. I might say something like, can I meet you on a call right now? And right now I'm doing interviews live on Zoom. Can I meet you right now for a job interview? Like they'll text me, hey, I'm available. Can we do a Zoom interview right now? I would love to jump on the call right now. They don't have time to prepare. I want to find out who they are right now.
Wow.
And it's interesting because some people will say, well, I can meet you next week. Well, if I wait till next week, I've given them a whole entire week to go shopping for other jobs. And you're right, we are in a competitive marketplace where we are competing with other retailers and we're competing with wait staff and Uber and all these other things. But right now, more than ever, we are competing with the gig economy, which is online, where people can do tasks out of their home online.
Correct.
Why would I stop what I'm doing out of my bedroom on my computer to come help you where I got to get all hot and sweaty and I got to go clean toilets? And so if I can interrupt them and just say, hey, can we get on a call right now? If we have a live interview, and for years we've done live interviews, I set things up and you ask, how do you screen them? I always put a newspaper out in the drive. And if they have to walk up and walk past the newspaper, I'm looking, did they pick it up and bring it in on the way? They're coming in that way anyway. And if they look around and, oh, look, hey, this goes in the house, I'm headed that way, I can take it with them. I know that this is a person that takes the initiative, that they don't need to be told what to do. When they get inside, I have a chair, a table and a chair. The chair is strategically placed right in front of a table leg. And there's a whole table, you can just move it over slightly and make yourself comfortable. And there are so many people that will come in and they straddle that table leg and it's really weird and uncomfortable. And they are trying to fit in. I appreciate the fact that they're trying to fit in, but if they just move the chair out slightly, then they could be comfortable. And I want to see what kind of a person is this? Do they have to wait for permission to be told you may be comfortable? And so there are a lot of things like that that are just, they're just set up. When I schedule appointments for job interviews, I always schedule them in teams and I always hire in twos so that if somebody doesn't work out, I have a replacement. And if I'm training, I might as well train two people at a time as well. So I always do team interviews, and the team interviews are set up also strategically. You talk about screening and they don't know they're being screened because the interview hasn't happened yet, right? I already know so much before we even open our mouths. The screening process is, how do they treat the other people that are in the room? And a lot of times there's kind of a cat fight or a competition, or I hope I get the job and you don't. And they might say things that are biting about the other person, or they might be a bit sarcastic, kind of like trying to one up the other person, or they'll interrupt the other person. I can tell really quickly what kind of a team player they're going to be.
Wow, that's the truth.
So you interview them at the same time?
I do.
All right. So in that, because we've done in the past in our business in their waiting area, we've done that, not in the actual interview. That is so interesting.
Well, the thing that's cool about the interview is you're going to go through all the details anyway, and you're going to ask personal history anyway. And if the two people are going to work together, they're going to work together anyway. They're going to want to know that information anyway. And I never tell them I'm hiring two people. I'm telling you now, but I never tell them I'm hiring them both. And at the end of some job interviews, I said, you're both hired. But what's interesting about it is they will try to fight for position like, well, I hope I get hired because, and they try to one up the other person.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Genius. It's really, I see that everything that you do is very strategic and very well thought. And I mean, you're a person that has systems and processes for everything. And I mean, I never imagined to really set, a room and the newspaper. So I think those are really clever things that can tell you a lot about a person. And I mean, the first time I really hear this strategy. So,
well, what's interesting is this: we can train people to clean, but I need somebody who shows up that knows that they're capable of doing the job. Someone who believes in themselves, someone who has a great attitude, someone who is a team player, who likes people. Because there are people there are people we try to hire and they're like, well, I just like to clean. I don't like people. I got a problem with that because we're going to be inside customers' homes and we have to love our customers in order to offer the best service to them. And so if you don't like people, that doesn't tell me that you're going to be a good customer service agent, or that you're going to be a good representation of my brand, or that you're going to be a good team player with other people that we hire. And so if you can pick that up on a job interview, then you've spent, a few minutes with someone, and you can send them on their way without spending a fortune trying to train them and take them into customers' homes and whatever. And then 3 months down the road, it's just bad news for everyone. And then everyone is sad and disenchanted, and then you got to fire them. Does that make sense?
Do you have like a checklist? Like, do you assess this at the end of the interview and write it down? She didn't pick up the newspaper, or she didn't move the chair. Like, what are those things that you document?
So I use a program called FileMaker Pro, and I've probably used it for about 25 years. And it's just a database that you can search by any field. And that's what I like about it, is you can search it by any field. And I keep all of my notes in there. So from the very first time they contacted me, every time there's an interaction, I just make a quick note, as does everyone now on our team. They make a quick note about that person, and it will be new information we found out. I know that Pipehire solves a lot of these problems where you can add in birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and kids' names and pets' names and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to add in information and notes. And so if there are any notes that I want to make that are just notes that I need to resolve later, or this could be an issue, or I like to make a note of that in this file. And for the reason that if I have to resolve an issue, I can say, oh, looking back all the way, this has been going on for 3 months, or this has been going on for 6 months. It's just kind of a running tally where there's no guesswork. Well, did this happen, or was that another employee, or am I remembering it correctly? I don't have to remember. It's documented. And so if I ever have to go back to a record, for example, let's say it was an unemployment claim or something, I've got records of every single conversation.
Wow.
That is absolutely important. And it's for liability purposes when it comes to this kind of government reports or filings, but also because we can't remember absolutely every conversation that we have with 20 plus employees. It's something that, and then to retrieve that information is so important, because you can write it down in a notepad, but go look for that notepad from the conversation you had 3-6 months ago. So retrieving that information is essential. Absolutely. I'm ready to ask another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that that we say in our company is that hiring is the easy part, but the real work starts when they're on your company and on your payroll. You run such a large cleaning company. How are you able to keep all the trainings and every little process on its track?
That's also a great question. Look at you with all the great questions. So it goes back to my philosophy. If I'm going to do something more than once, especially if I'm going to do it over and over and over again, it needs to be a process. And the process is, if you're going to stay in business for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, you're going to be hiring a lot of people. And so what does that hiring process look like? So from the very beginning, even from the time that you set the appointment to have them come, to trip over the newspaper, to do all those things, it happens every single time. And so there will be people that, oh, you have a job interview, and they'll run and put the newspaper out there, to help you out, because they know what the process is. Okay, so having said that, when we do our training, we work from a checklist, and all of our customers know our checklist, all of us know our checklist, and all of our employees know the checklist. And so when you take an employee that's a really good employee and they're training another employee, because we do work in teams so that somebody can train the next person. But what happens is they're following the checklist exactly. And we've asked all of our customers, and this is something that we started doing probably from about year 1 or year 2. We asked this question, and we ask this to every single walkthrough that we go on. How will you know your house is clean? And everybody gives a little bit different answer. And we say, let me make a note of that. And we make a note of that on our checklist. We have about 27 things that are unique to us. And they're things that customers have told us are important to them. Slightly different than the way other house cleaners do their business, but important to us. So part of our training is this 27-step program that we do. And it's the little things like you fold the toilet paper in a V, right? Not a rose, not a boat. It's nothing fancy. It's just a V. But what happens is when the customer comes in and they open the door and they see the toilet paper is in a V, they know that that whole toilet area has been cleaned and sanitized because that's the way it looks when we leave. If another team member is in the house and they come through and they see the toilet paper in a V and it's the last thing we do as the whole toilet area is done, then they're like, oh, this area has been sanitized and cleaned. Okay, so there are things like that that are visual cues to both the house cleaner, to the homeowner. And then if there's an inspection lead that's on the job, they can come through and just take a look and double check everything. And so it's a system that we follow, but it makes it super easy to duplicate. And that's the key. It has to be easy to duplicate. And then the other thing beyond that is it becomes very recognizable. And so the cool part is, let's say that I'm on a job and then I call out sick because I have a family emergency or something, and we send in a replacement. We send in a replacement that was with that lead. So if I train that person on the job, but that's my house, I could still bring them in on my job because they've already cleaned that house with me. They know the customers, they know the pets, they're familiar with the house already. They watched me clean it or they saw me clean it already. And they know the 27 checkpoints, they know the checklist. When they leave, if the homeowner does not have home security cameras, they will never know it was not me that was there. The cleaning is exact for everybody that does the cleaning. It's not like somebody goes way above and beyond and spends an extra half hour and does a bunch of extra stuff. It's that everybody does the same cleaning because we clarify the expectations up front. We follow a checklist, we follow a system, and at the end, the customer gets what they paid for and we get what we delivered, what we promised. Does that make sense?
I had a question there. Does your checklist have photos so the customer knows that the toilet paper has to look that way and the employee, or how do you communicate the checklist? Just a simple checklist?
No, we have a checklist. It's actually 3 pages, and we take one and we leave it at every house, at every clean. And I've been asked several times, technology, can we do it virtual or whatever? We still do a paper checklist. And forgive me because I know it's a kill to trees. It's one of my how would you say, one of my weaknesses, because I have a paperless office except for worksheets. The worksheet, here's the reason why. The worksheet kicks around and is there long after you're gone. And so when a customer comes in, they might not at a glance, they might forget that you were coming today. Oh, they see your checklist right there. Oh, that's right, the cleaners came today. You checked everything off that list and it's right there in front of them with your QR code where they can scan it and leave you a rating and review. Also, if there were any notes you left for them, hey, here's a quick note. And you can also leave notes like, hey, good luck on Jimmy's basketball game this weekend, or something like that, right? It's your way of communicating with the customer. But here's the cool thing about it. Everything that you checked off on that checklist is guaranteed on your satisfaction guarantee. So if for any reason you didn't get to something, like you get to the house and it's extra messy, you send a quick text to the homeowner and you say, hey, Karen, your house is extra messy today. How do you want me to do this? Do you want me to spend the extra time in the playroom? And you might text me back and say, no, don't worry about the playroom today. I really want the other areas of the house focused on. Okay, great. At least we communicated that. And whether you communicate that directly with the homeowner or through your boss, if it's, if you're the employee, you have to communicate that somehow, but find out, do I spend an extra hour of my time here in this one room, or do I continue on with the regular cleaning? So whatever you checked off on the checklist for the day, that's what you're guaranteeing. So if there's something that you normally do, you didn't get to today, you just don't check it off. And you might make a note, I didn't check off the playroom today based on our conversation, whatever. And so that way you don't get callbacks because, again, the expectations were clear. You may have had to realign those expectations, but you realigned them so that, again, the expectations were clear.
That's so true. It really solves so many callbacks, redos, giving money back. I thought on that years ago, but I said it's kind of like a two-edged sword. I might leave this and maybe the employee just checked things and she or he didn't completed it. But I guess it's part of the integrity of the person to really, okay, I did this area, checked. And that was kind of my fear, that people probably were not, their integrity was not there. But I mean, hearing it from you, I think we can implement it in our business because, I mean, it's really expectations are met. And when you do that, so many problems are gone.
Well, and the expectation is also this. We expect all of our employees to fill out the checklist at every clean. And the homeowner expects it at every clean. But who needs all those checklists? So here's what happens. And it's one of our very best marketing tools. It has our name and contact information at the top, but check it out. It has a list of everything that we do at your house every time and all the things that we got to. So if a neighbor says, hey, who do you use for house cleaning? Hang on just a second. You got to see this. They get our checklist. They hand it to their neighbor. It has our name and information on it, all the things that we check off. And the third page of our checklist are all of our rules and regulations. And so it talks about payment. It talks about call outs. It talks about sick. It talks about cancellations. It talks about all that stuff.
Wow.
So
the sales part.
When I can't tell you how many times we've gotten walkthroughs, and I'll go through a walkthrough and our worksheets from someone else's house will be on the counter. And then I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. Well, the neighbor did the selling for us. We don't have to sell. We just basically go in and close the deal.
That's
Amazing.
genius.
Yeah.
We're going back to the 90s to do that.
Well, when we started, we were all about digital. And now that everything is virtual, we're starting to pull back on some of those digital paperwork that honestly we've seen that it's much better if people see something on paper from time to time. But I like
it gets
how
more real.
Yeah, and that consistency for the clients, it's also great for the employees because repetition is so important when they're training, especially when they're new. And if they're seeing that checklist over and over and over, it's sort of like a reminder of what they're supposed to be doing every single time they clean a house. So I could totally see that as a retraining tool on every service.
Well, you just brought up something that was important because they see it over and over and over again. You can't check something off if you didn't clean it. And so there are a lot of times because you get in a zone or you get in the routine that you think, oh yeah, I cleaned the whole room. And then you go to check it off and you're like, oh, wait a second, I didn't do that yet. And you have to stop and actually go finish the task before you check it off. And so it keeps everybody on the same page, including those that may forget.
So it's sort of like a self-inspection as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm fascinated by the way you train, and I must confess that we've used your YouTube videos as a reference in our own company workshops.
Thank you.
I'm a fan of cleaning. I know many company owners are not fans of cleaning. I absolutely love cleaning. But one of the things that really interests me is how since you're so in tune with systems and how employee behavior is driven with so many motivators, the predominant one, their income, of course. But how do you develop a training that leads to rock star employees? Because it's sort of like a product, like our employees become a product of our training. So I'm wondering, how do you do that? And if it's ongoing, because we can't expect employees to remember everything they learned on their first week of training 6 months down the road. So what kind of system with training that you develop, if you want to share with us, of course.
Do you remember back to the first part of our conversation where I made the audacious statement that parenting was a lot like raising employees? It really is. And if you take the root of what a child is to his parent, there will always be, it's like this built-in thing. They want their parents' approval and they will jump through hoops to either get attention or to lash out or to, whatever it is, to try to get their attention and their approval. And employees are a whole lot the same way. And so if you can catch them doing things that are right, not wrong, because they'll do a lot of things that are wrong, but if you can catch them doing the things that are wrong, it goes back to psychology 101. People repeat behaviors that get attention. So if you're loud and you're fussy and your parents are like, stop doing that, you be quiet, don't make so much noise. Wait a second, I just got some attention by being noisy. So all they have to do is repeat that same behavior because they got nagged at, or they got attention, or they got, and so if that's not the behavior you want, don't pay attention to those behaviors. But instead, when the kid is sitting there quietly, you come in and you're like, oh my goodness, you're playing by yourself so quietly. You know, how nice it is that you're just enjoying this moment. And then they're like, oh, so if I'm quiet and I enjoy these positive moments, like my parents are happy with me, oh, I think I'll be quiet more often or whatever.
Repeat. Yeah.
You repeat the behaviors that you want, you reward those behaviors that you want repeated.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with employees. So we have house cleaning employees that might bicker with each other if they're on a team. Okay, that's a problem and that must be dealt with individually. But when they're getting along so well, that's the moment we want to pay attention to. They come in and they're happy, they're turning in their equipment. Wow, you guys are such a great team together. I am so pleased that you guys are on a team. Please let me know, if there's anything I can do to, increase the joy. No, we love working together. We have to work together. But you set that up and you build that and you support it every day.
Mm-hmm.
When they do things that are right, oh my goodness, let's pay attention to this. We had no callbacks this week from you. Check it out. Your customers love you. And they're like, well, I love my customers too. And they're trying to please you as if you were the parent, almost in that parent-child situation, right? And although you're not the parent, you kind of are. You're the leader of the business, which is like the parent of the business. Yeah. And because of that, you're expected to have the money to pay them on payroll every week. Mm-hmm. You're expected to motivate them when they have a down day. You're expected to be able to understand them and meet them at wherever they are, whether it's a breakup or a divorce or children problems or money problems or whatever. There's stuff that happens. Right. And so they're expecting that you're going to be a shoulder to cry on. And although we don't want to enable this codependent relationship, you do want to be there and be a certain level of support for your team. And I believe in investing in people. And so you talked about the money issue. I would rather invest my heart and soul into someone, and I would rather than make the money that they earn, because we do pay based on performance. But it's my job not to just pay them more, but it's my job to inspire the greatness in them. And so every day, I got to learn new stuff every day. I got to show up every day with my attitude in check, because if I'm having a really bad day or I'm having PMS or I feel really irritable or whatever, I'm not going to be at my best for my team. And so for me, this is going to sound really weird and wackadoodle and completely off the topic, but if I eat sugar, it makes me feel really lethargic and maybe kind of like blah or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm not at my best for my team. So if I'm going to be working with my team all day, I got to know that sugar cannot be a part of my diet. And that sounds like a really weird, stupid thing that's completely unrelated, but it comes back to, are you your best version of you for your team? Because check this out, here's where it gets really important. If you're your best version for your team, you're sending people to customers' homes. They're an extension of your business. They're representing you. So true. And when the customer has a problem, they're expecting your employee, who is the mini me, they're the mini version of you, they've got to rise to the occasion and they've got to pump it up and they've got to be motivational and customer service oriented and happy, and they have to respect and promote your brand. And that's a lot to put on an employee. Mm-hmm. But we hire people we know are capable of the task. Mm-hmm. We make it really tough to get hired. And the people that are like, I'm a diehard, I can do this, I can make it through. I believe you can. That's why you were hired. We hired you because you're so smart. And so now we expect that you're going to help us carry on this message to our employees and our customers, our coworkers, and the people that we work with. And it's amazing how people will rise to the occasion if you believe in the greatness in them. Wow. So it's not so much a training program as much as it is an investment in people. And the people that we have, I mean, we got people that have worked for us for years. But it's an investment in people, and they're with us because they want to be here. They want to work with us. Mm-hmm. And so I feel honored every day that I show up and people show up. I'm like, whoa, you guys all came. Yay. We have a team today. So,
wow, that's our golden nuggets for sure. Leadership really at the end of the day, right? It's just some of the hardest things that we all, I guess, most of us deal as an entrepreneurs, that leading people to be their best, but it has to start with us first. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're not there. So that really confronts me. And thank you. What other questions you have related to this line of thought?
Well, one of the things that that really really captivates me when I look at your videos, it's the depth of the information made so practical. And I think teaching is a gift. I think helping grow somebody into who they're created to be or to become a better person. I think that's one of the things that as a leader, it has been on my mind constantly. So for the business owner, for the entrepreneur, for the house cleaner that just started yesterday, what is the one thing that you would say to focus on, to learn and to grow, to create this habit of nurturing others? I think it relates again to parenting. This has become like a parenting interview. But what's the one thing that you recommend to focus on when it comes to self-growth and personal growth?
So that is a kind of a tough question. I love the question. It's kind of a tough question. And it's going to go against everything that we know about house cleaners. And so brace yourself. You're all sitting down, right? Let's brace ourselves, make sure that we're grounded here.
It might disappear from time to time out of the utter shock.
The situation is this, and you're not going to want to hear this, and you might have to process it a couple of times in your mind. So don't judge it right now, just listen to it. And then think about it later, and then you can argue with me at any future date. As house cleaners, we are people pleasers. And so I call it the mom syndrome. We are moms first, we take care of everyone else, and we put ourselves last. Okay, that's really unhealthy, and it's kind of psycho, and it doesn't serve anyone. And we do it because we are people pleasers, and we want to help people. We want to help our customers. We want to help our employees. We want to motivate people. Just stop, okay, just stop. The first thing that you need to do every single day is you need to stop and ground yourself. And what that means is you got to take some time for yourself, and you've got to look at all the different areas of your life. And are you the best version of yourself? Because if you're not, you can't be the best version of yourself for your employees, for your children, for your spouse, for your customers, if you're not the best version of you. So against everything that we believe in, oh, I should take care of everyone else, I'm a people pleaser, I'm going to save the world. Don't save the world until you save yourself. And by that, I mean, we can hire, we've learned to outsource as business owners. We can outsource all of our tasks. It's like magic. But there are three things we cannot outsource, and that is our eating. No one is going to get nutrition from the food that I eat except myself. I have to choose of my own, when no one's looking, when no one else is around. I have to choose the healthy choice. If I choose the junk food, which is so good and I love it, it's not gonna serve me in the end, and it's not gonna serve the best version of me, and I'm not gonna be my best for my employees and my customers. They say you can't turn into a millionaire if you eat off the dollar menu, right? You can't eat junk food and expect that it's going to nourish your body in a way that's going to serve you long term. The next thing is you cannot pay someone else to sleep for you. And as entrepreneurs, we love to work like 20 hours a day. I'll just keep going because I'm the Energizer bunny. Well, you know what? The sugary drinks and the caffeine and the monster drinks is not the answer. You actually need sleep. And there are neurons in your brain, and there's connectivity that all happens and resets itself when you actually sleep. And it needs to be a deep REM sleep. And so you have to commit to getting your sleep every night. And you're like, what on earth does this have to do with house cleaning? Everything, everything. Because if you don't get enough sleep, I promise, if you've been in the room, raise your hands. If you've ever got to the point where you're a little bit tired and you're a little bit grumpy and you're on edge and you're a little bit snappy, you've been there, right? Raise your hands. You all been there? Yeah. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. You need a nap. You need a little bit of sleep, and you got to make sure that you get it on a regular basis. And so just like we have routines in our business, you need a routine for your body. And your body means you get up at the same time every day. You go to bed at the same time every night. There's actually an app on the phone that sets an alarm when you're supposed to go to bed. And it starts winding everything down so that you go to bed on time every night. So you can't pay somebody to eat for you. You cannot pay somebody to sleep for you. And you cannot pay someone to exercise for you. And you're like, well, I'm a house cleaner. I get all my house cleaning, working out every day. No, you don't. there's a whole bunch of extra stretching exercises and core exercises that will support your thighs, your butt, your back, your hips, your spine, your core. I mean, you need to stretch and you need to exercise. And so along with that, then all of a sudden it's your heart, your mind, your body, your soul. And when you're in that zone and you are at your best, you become an unstoppable force that then people are like, what is going on there? I want to go work for that company. And so you draw people to you. You ask the question, how do we advertise and get people into our business? You become the business. We talk about company culture. We don't have to recruit company culture. You are the company culture, and people will spy on you and they're like, I want to go over there. I want to do what they're doing. It's not what they're doing. It's who we are becoming. And as we are becoming the best version of ourselves, we attract that same kind of person to us. So if you are the kind of person that is just churning the employees, there's something wrong, but I wouldn't look at the employee churn as the problem. I would stop and go back to the roots. Are you taking care of yourself? Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you cannot take care of anyone else and not do it very well.
Wow.
What are your top 3 self-care habits that you have for yourself? Like more in specific, like I know you probably have, of course, nutritious eating and restful sleep and exercise. But if you think about it, you probably have systematized this as well. I'm wondering if you have like a certain routine in the morning or at night. I'm just curious to see. Sometimes when we share these habits, it sparks creativity in us and in our attendees as well.
Well, there was a time I was running marathons, and so I had a certain longer routine, and I don't have time for that anymore. And so my time in the morning is about 45 minutes in the morning, and I do still go running every morning, but it's me against the world. And I say me against the world. It's quiet, it's solitude. It's where I process my thoughts. I've just been sleeping, so I've had restful sleep. I wake up in the morning and it's kind of my wake up, get going routine. But the very first thing I do is I throw on my clothes and I go outside, and it's fresh air. Sometimes it's cold right now at this time of year. Cold, fresh air, but it's me, and I get to talk and communicate with my creator and just kind of say, hey, isn't this such a cool day? I get to be a part of this today. How awesome is this that I get to enjoy the fresh air and the world around me, and that I get to be my own boss. And I go through the things that I'm working on. And then there are things that are frustrating, as all business owners will attest to. I'm trying to work through this problem. How can I honor this situation and do it in the most productive way, the most efficient way? How can we resolve this in the quickest way and in a way with the least collateral damage? And just by having that, and there's some kind of mind-body connection where when I'm out jogging and I'm burning the calories and my heart is going, and it's, oxygen and energy flow, and my lymphatic system is going again, that my brain starts to work and I start to be able to solve some problems that when I come back to my office and it's only 5 o'clock in the morning now, I feel like I've already got a really great start to my day. Like, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to go. And then I don't actually get showered and dressed for a couple of hours, but I sit down and there's a series of things that I have to take care of every day. And although I touch in with myself at the top of every day, I touch in with all of my team members on paper. I look at all the commitments, all the stuff that they turned in during the day. We do have checklists. I check off the checklists and I find out where they are in the business. There's a place for them to leave notes for me, just like we leave notes on the checklist for our customers. If they have questions or they have problems or things that I need to address today, I can do that at the top of the day before all the chaos jumps in. And I feel like it really grounds me first, then it grounds me with my team. And then by the time that the day has kind of got started, I've already done a series of tasks. I've checked off a couple of deadlines and we've done what we had to do. And then I feel like I can then go take my shower and go through the next phase, which is when I'm in the shower and it's kind of quiet. There are no interruptions. There's no email. Then I can actually process what just happened in the last 2 hours. So my morning routine takes about till 7:30 in the morning. And then at about 7:30 in the morning, then I go into high gear because my doors open at 9 o'clock and that's when our day begins. And I do a full process because people work out of my house. We've got a media lab at my house. And it's kind of like turning an Airbnb, where I got to restock the coffee bar. I got to make sure the kitchens are cleaned. I got to make sure the bathrooms are reset, and we fold the toilet paper over and wipe the toilets down and all that stuff. Because at my house, I know that people are coming around with their phone. They're like, I'm going to catch dust in Angela's house. And I'm like, no, you're not. So I got to kind of like reset everything, right? So it's kind of a turnover every day. And then when the doors open at 9 o'clock and people start showing up, I'm good. I'm really good. I'm grounded for the day. I've taken care of me. I've taken care of them.
Yeah.
Okay, bring on whatever you got. I'm here. I'm ready. Let's go.
Let me ask you there, when you mentioned that people come to you, I mean, are those your coaching clients that go to your house, or this is your team?
No. I
for your
yeah.
YouTube channel.
I should have clarified that. I'm sorry. I don't have coaching clients come to my house. You guys would not be happy at my house. I would give you a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, but no, it's my team. Since 2016, we've been training full time. And in order to train full time, we've had to work some on YouTube, and we have a daily podcast, and we have a daily blog, and we now give away a free t-shirt every day, which is a completely new design that's marketed and released every day. And so we have a team of people that come over, and they're working on all the back things of the business to make all of that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen your t-shirt, funny cleaning t-shirts. That's a clever idea.
Yeah. Production is a whole another animal, and I'm sure there's a lot of checklists when it comes to prepping up the gear and all this fancy, amazing stuff. I love film and production too. But I absolutely love one of the things that, and we were discussing last night about, there's so many things you can learn about cleaning. I have multiple books. I have multiple blogs that I consistently follow, and video blogs like yours on YouTube. What would you say, if you think about the 80-20 rule, if you had to choose 20% of what you teach as far as cleaning specifically, what would you teach if you had one moment with a cleaner and you're like, okay, I need to teach them this 20% so that they get, they learn 80% of the important things that they need to get going. And the reason why we backpedal a little bit, the reason why I asked this question is because I feel, and I see sometimes that new employees get a little overwhelmed, especially when they have never cleaned before, with all the different styles and levels of dirtiness and all the different products and what do I use where. So they either are very overwhelmed, or they just throw everything away and go back to what they originally knew how to do as far as cleaning. So I'm wondering if you could choose like a concentrated 20% or one area in the house, or one system, or one process. What would you choose?
That's a trick question. The short answer is you have to train them on the basics. They have to know pH levels, and they have to know chemical safety, and they have to know surfaces. And there's some basics they have to know, because they're responsible for the surfaces that they clean. As a company, you are responsible for the surfaces that they clean. So there are some basics they have to know. But if you're going to spend 80% of your time training 20% of what they need to know, the 20% I would focus on that is the most important would be common sense. I say that because there will be times when they find themselves in a situation and they don't actually know the answer. And I don't want to enable them to say, well, I wasn't taught that, therefore I don't know the answer. I want them to be able to use common sense, and I want to empower them and train them and give them permission to use common sense so they can say, wait a second, I'm in a situation I've never been in before. I don't know the answer. How do I find the answer? If no one gives me the answer, what is the best decision with the least amount of collateral damage that I can do? And the answer is the least chemical that you can use. So if you're not sure that this chemical is going to work on it, by all means, don't use it. If you're unfamiliar with this surface and you're unfamiliar how the response or the reaction is going to be, don't use it. Go with something that you know that is tried and tested, that is going to have, like water, right? We know that water is not going to damage it. It's not going to ruin it. Can I clean it with just water? If I have to add something else, what is the least amount of something I can add in? Maybe it's a drop of Dawn dish soap. You know what I mean? Don't go for full blown strong chemicals if something smaller and something of a lesser chemical will do the job. And so I would rather in that moment them use their common sense than try to make a mistake because, forgive me for saying this, but because somebody in a Facebook group told them that was a good idea. In a moment of doubt, forget all your Facebook friends and go with the common sense that you have. Because in the end, the friends on Facebook are not going to pay for the surface if you damage it.
Exactly.
That's true.
Wow, teaching common sense is like challenge accepted. That's such a great great point, that sometimes we focus so much on the technical, on the products and the novelty, and this new system came in place and who uses this program or what's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps I need to follow. But it's just very, very grounding to hear your response about teaching them common sense, and in a way it's to empower them, like you were saying, to help them make decisions and feel comfortable in their role as a house cleaner. If they're empowered to make decisions that are common sense, I think they're going to be way more confident and do a better job as well.
It's hard to find people with common sense sometimes, but
well, you know, it's weird about that. We hear that a lot. We say that a lot.
How do you really make them really have this common sense?
Well, we hire for common sense. I ask people in the job interview, do you have common sense? And share with me an experience of the time that you did. And what's interesting about that is people don't often get asked the question. We don't often hold people accountable for having common sense. And what happens is this: we wait for people to tell us what to do. Well, why are we waiting? Right? You're pretty smart. You know the answers. If your life depended on it, could you solve this problem? And the answer is always yes. Okay, well, then go do that, right? And then we honor the decisions that they made. I love it when people in my company make a decision, even if it's not the decision that I would have made. Sometimes I'm kind of like, how did they come up with that? Like, but I love the fact that they tried. Because they tried, that means that they were willing to think outside the box. They were willing to look for an answer somewhere else. They were willing to give it a try, even if it wasn't the right answer. And very rarely is it like a huge, colossal problem or something. It's usually just like, I would have done it a different way. But I love the fact that you tried it and you came up with a solution, right? And you can always coach around that, and you can always tweak it, and you can always, but you gave them permission and then you rewarded that behavior. And I tell you what, people will jump through hoops and they become all kinds of smart because you brought that out of them.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like, again, the leadership and being that encouraging person to really help them make the best decisions possible. Perfect.
I have so many questions, and I know we're running out of time.
Pretty much. I think you have one more or two.
Well, I think after 25 years in business, I'm sure you have fantastic stories. So I'm wondering, what's your aha moment that, or an experience when you realized this is a game changer when it comes to teaching somebody how to clean? Like, this usually sparks somebody to understand their role as a house cleaner. Is there like a specific story that may be funny or maybe not so funny that you remember that was kind of like an aha moment for in your business?
Well, yes. I mean, I have aha moments every day in my business. It's not that I had an aha moment with a client as much as it was the aha moment came for me. In 2016, when I decided that I was going to take my business online, I decided to take it online because I needed to be able to work from home.
Right.
And what I realized in this moment was, well, I had a couple of real life moments. And one of them was, I just turned into a house cleaning lady. This is not where I was going to be at this time of my life. And now look at me, look where I am. And I was kind of discouraged and I was kind of frustrated. And I realized hang on a second. This is what God gave you. This is what's in front of you. And it's okay to be a house cleaner. It's okay. And I had, kind of like hoped that one day I would grow up and be something, different. But then I realized, well, there's no shame in this. It's something that everyone needs. Everyone needs to know how to clean their home. You either need to run from it or you need to embrace it. And it was an aha moment for me in teaching myself. It's okay to be in this profession. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do that, how am I going to get the message out? If I'm going to train and I'm not actively training with other companies, how am I going to do this? And I knew it was online and I had no online skills.
Wow.
And so I realized I have a new learning curve, and the learning curve means I have to commit every day. I got to figure out how to get the message out. So back to the systems, what's the quickest, fastest, most productive way to do what you're going to do? And my answer was YouTube. And I had exactly 0 YouTube experience. So I said, if I was going to do that, what would I do? And I had to get very granular about my system, the same you do as if you're a business owner. And I said, I can't do how to clean videos because I don't have a camera crew. I'm only one person. Okay, so if I'm only one person, what can I do? What I can do is I can stand in front of one wall and I can talk. And then later when I figure out the rest of it, I'll figure out the rest of it. Okay, so how are you going to do that? I'm like, well, I don't have the fancy clothes and the fancy hair and all that stuff, but you have a house cleaning uniform. Yes, I do. Okay, good. Put your house cleaning uniform on, stand in one spot and say what you know. And so I hooked up a camera, I hooked up a microphone, and I've got the backdrop behind me. It's actually, I'll show you this. This is kind of cool. This is like,
want to see it. Yeah.
This is like pulling the Oz behind the curtain.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's actually a 10-foot by 8-foot stretch fabric display. And I set it up from day one so that I would never have to figure out, don't laugh at me, but so that I wouldn't have to figure out, you watch YouTube videos and people have like bookshelves with like a little YouTube pillow, and then they have like little Christmas lights in the background. I don't know how to set all that stuff up. So I just set up one backdrop, one camera, one light. Let's do this.
And the same uniform. I love it. So basic and simple.
Yeah, basic, straightforward. Yeah.
So the aha moment was start where you are with what you have. And as you learn more, you can do more. And let that be enough, because as you build your business, you're going to always look down the road and say, oh, I wish I had the wrapped cars. Oh, I wish I had the mobile vans. I wish I had this, that, or the other. Just start where you are with the best that you have, and let that be good enough for right now. And then every single day, try to get better. With the YouTube show, I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know I needed a microphone. The early videos I have are such crap, but I started. Yeah. And my commitment was every day we're going live, no matter what. We're going live every day. Every day we're going to get better than we were yesterday. And that's our goal. Every single day, get better than we were yesterday.
Wow, I love it. I mean, it speaks to us as business owners, because creating content, it's so important right now, but it's also, it has to come from a point of self-validation, that we have to validate ourselves in our industry and in this position as house cleaners. Most of us, as owner operators, Juan and I started cleaning from the get-go when I was 18 and he was 21. And it's
I just love that.
Yeah.
And we started with just what we had at the moment. We had some cleaning products from our MLM business, and we just started with cleaning with that, and that's how we really started cleaning. And it's been 16 years now, and we've been improving every day. And now we're here with a decent sized business, but really grateful of being able to operate this business from home, and be able to raise our 2 daughters without being in an office every day, and so we're very grateful where we are at this point in our lives.
And it's so important to embrace it. I love what you said about how sometimes we come to a realization that oh, I wanted to have this and that, or I wanted to achieve this certain level. And nowadays, especially after the pandemic started, many people probably haven't reached the goals that they wanted to reach. For us in our business, 2019 was the top of, like, it was the best
year ever.
In regards to revenue, was the best year that we've ever had in our business. And to move that into 2020, it was really interesting to see how many things shifted, but at the same time, I had to also go back and to like, wait, my validation doesn't come from having a successful business. It doesn't come from how many sales or how many employees I have. It doesn't come with, of how perfect my background is, or if, so many things that we base our identity on sometimes, that is just so important to come together, ground ourselves, as you were saying, like, focus and, have this conversation with our creator and come come at terms and be at peace with where we're at. And that is totally okay. That is, we're at the point in our lives where we can continue to grow, and validating ourselves, it's so important through that growth process. Because how can we validate our employees and just grow as a company personally if we don't start with ourselves too? So I think it's so inspiring to hear that, and I'm so glad we have it recorded, because I'm going to rewatch this video. There's so many personal truths in here that it's so important to.
Yeah, I got here people in the chat really saying they love this interview. That's Wise Woman. Thanks for sharing. Great interview. I mean, everybody's really.
Thank you.
I think haven't seen an interview of you really. You're just talking about cleaning products. So I think this is really, showing to the world behind the cleaning products, behind the knowledge that you have in cleaning, what's really behind the business person and Angela Brown's person. I think this is something that many people haven't seen. I wanted to maybe close with where you're headed into 2021, 2022, and what other plans you have as far as your coaching, your programs, your business. I mean, I'm sure you're a visionary, and there's so many things in your head that you want to get up. And I want to see if you can share a little bit about us of, your next steps, next direction.
Well, that is a loaded question. Thank you for that. So when I spun off my business in 2016, I sat down and I strategically created a new business plan, because my business was going to change. Even though it was somewhat the same, it was going to change because everything about my business was going to be different. And so what I did is I set up 12 pillars in my business. And the pillars are, if you have a pillar and you have several pillars, you can build a foundation on that, and you can build an empire, if you will. But if you only have one pillar and you build something on it, it can always teeter. And if by any shred of the imagination, something like COVID hits that pillar, the whole kaleidoscope crumbles. Mm-hmm. And so what I figured out was, in order for my business to be well-rounded, in order for it to support itself from every angle, it would have 12 different pillars. And I strategically set up each one of them so that they would support the other. But if one of them collapsed, the others would still stay and would still hold the foundation of my business. So now we are at about 8 pillars so far. And as every year I introduce a new element, and we've been on kind of like a business on steroids, because we've grown much, much faster than I anticipated. And so with the growth, I kind of go into like hyperactivity mode, like, wow, what's happening? And I try to manage it all as quickly as possible, saying, wait a second, don't panic. We've been here before. We just need systems to make this work. And so as quickly as possible, as stuff is coming at me, I say, wait a second, is this important? Or is this a shiny object that I'm chasing? If this is important, if this is something we want to embrace in our business, what I need to do is I need to template it, document it, figure out how it all works, and outsource it to someone else. And do it in such a way that I can check in with them and say, this is kind of what I was expecting. I don't really believe that I can hire somebody to do something if I don't understand what it is I'm asking for. And so I want to understand enough of the process that when I outsource it, I know what it's worth, what the project is worth, what I'm expecting when it comes back to me. Like we asked the customer, how will you know your house is clean? How will I know when my SEO is done, right? I want to know what that looks like when I'm done, so that I know if what I'm paying for is what I received. And then also, if it doesn't work out and it doesn't look like that, how quickly can I take that same system and spin it off to someone else? So for me, instead of just saying, well, I want to understand SEO, it's like, I want to document my SEO process. And then someone can watch a video of how that works, and they can click on the dots and say, okay,